Good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you to the four. I start right at 4 o'clock. I literally.
Were you counting down?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. When I was a kid growing up, first of all, we're on Facebook Live, so hopefully if if you guys are bored, you can go watch live stream from your room. But when I was a kid, all of my clocks had to be synchronized. So what I would do is on the AM radio, I would synchronize my watch to KYW, the local radio station. The sound of the tone would be noon. Beep. I'd synchronize my watch to that. Then I would synchronize every clock in the house, including the microwave and the TV, to that exact time. I believe in starting on time. So welcome. I hope for those of you, it's been a great weekend so far. I think this is the last talk, and I think the bar will open in a couple hours. And I'm sorry if you tried to get a spa appointment and found it to be sold out. But my name is Ravi Goel. I'm a comprehensive ophthalmologist in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I'm also on the volunteer teaching staff at Wills Eye Hospital, the cataract and primary eye care service. And I'm going to speak today about growing your practice through collaborative partnerships. And I gave this talk at the Ophthalmology Business Summit in March of this year, where I'm the program director. I've expanded the slides significantly, so hopefully we'll have a nice journey together this afternoon. I have no financial interest to disclose. The love of learning. I was late to starting to listen to podcasts. And for many years, I would just listen to the radio going to and from work. And then I discovered podcasts in the last few years. It's been a great journey. For about 2 years ago. One is We Study Billionaires, and the second, which led me to something called the Knowledge Project with Shane Parrish. Now, the name We Study Billionaires I thought was a little goofy. I mean, I love these guys, Stig and Preston. But long story short, these two gentlemen read a book a week, they study, and they have a talk show. They have a podcast about an hour a week, no financial interest. They have an hour a week in which they talk about books. They talk about investing. They talk about practice. They talk about many different books they read, investing world and non-investing world, which sort of expanded my mind in the last few years, which led me to this talk. One of their guests was a guy named Shane Parrish, who's Canadian. I was born in I'm a Newfie. I was born in St. John's, Newfoundland. But Shane Parrish also, I think he's probably one of the most well-read people in the world. He's Canadian. Worked like the Canadian equivalent of the National Security Agency, and now he has a website called Farnham Street, which is sort of with a lot of great thinkers, a lot of great individuals. But this led me to the talk I'm going to give today. Listening to We Invest Billionaires, it led me to go to the Berkshire Hathaway meeting. I'm a small investor in Berkshire Hathaway, but basically, the first year I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning to stand in line with 200 people who also listen to this podcast. And in the line, we're trying to get in, and the line's open like 7, and then Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger come out around 9. They take questions till about 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon. They break for lunch, but they take questions like 4 or 5. But anyway, I found this has become part of like this educational journey, not financial, a little bit financial, but really an educational journey for me. This is the second year, and I love the Geico guys. Like sort of like they have a nice convention center where they have a lot of nice products which you can sample and stuff. So here's after I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning waiting for Warren Buffett to arrive. This year I was closer. I got a friend of mine gave me seats closer, and Tim Cook was there, and he was doing selfies with everybody. I saw him from afar. But this guy named Guy Spear and Monish Pabrai, who are both authors and investors. I want to recommend, before I go into the collaborative partnership, this book by Charlie Munger called Poor Charlie's Almanac. It is phenomenal. And again, going from this one podcast, has led me to many things, including this one book, because it talks about this whole concept of mental models. Building mental models, having a roadmap, which you've heard this weekend, and concepts I'm going to speak about, something called OKR, Objectives and Key Results. My wife got her, when we were dating, she had a JD and an MPH. And then when we started dating, she got an MBA and a master in finance. And she said, as she was finishing her MBA, she said, Ravi, you should go get an MBA, get an executive MBA or something like that, because as my interests have grown. And so I just pulled this last night. Here's the tuition of some of the most popular MBA programs in the country. And I won't bore you with the numbers, but the Wharton School, which is closest to where I live, tuition is about $160,000. That doesn't include room and board nor their foreign experiences. So I think it's about $230,000. So I quickly learned that MBA tuition versus lifelong learning. I think I'll take the lifelong learning. I've been led to a bunch of these books that I've been reading, which has led me to the collaboration and building a collaborative partnership. I'm also, as I mentioned, I'm also the program director for the Ophthalmology Business Summit, which we have, this year we sold out, but it's an academy program in March. We'll have it in March, hopefully in Chicago next year, if not Dallas. But certainly any practice administrators and physicians are invited to attend. So, what is collaboration? Now, I hate slides that have a lot of text here, but I'm going to read a little bit of the collaboration. We're going to read this definition, which I found really well. But collaboration is a mutually beneficial, well-defined relationship between two or more organizations to achieve common goals. Now, when you think about collaborative partnerships, you could think about collaboration between organizations, or when I think about ophthalmology, I'm in a two-member group. I think about collaboration within organizations, either between different departments or between different members of the healthcare team, be it the front desk staff and the technicians, the physicians and the technicians, the physicians and the scribes, etc. We're all trying to collaborate to bring about results. We also want collaboration to amplify our strength. So the relationship, I'm not going to read it, but I'm going to read it. The relationship includes commitment to definition of mutual relationships and goals, developing shared responsibility, mutual authority, and accountability for success. So results and amplifying strength. Collaboration, as we know, as you can probably guess, can save medical practices time, money, and effort. If you collaborate well, you can do those things. But what happens when you collaborate? There are two things you want to do. First is you want to avoid traps in collaboration. I read this great book by Morton Hansen, which was published by the Harvard Business Review. And I'm not intending this talk to be when I gave this talk at the Academy, at the Ophthalmology Business Summit, and I love feedback, but one of the feedback was he just gave a book review of like 3 books that he read. That's not the point of this lecture. I tried to extract the best information I could from the books I've read and sort of like collate them. I find a lot of common themes between these thought leaders. But avoiding collaboration traps. Assess when and when not to pursue collaboration. Identify there are 4 barriers to collaboration, which I'll go over. Get people to buy into the larger picture. You can collaborate all you want, but if you can't get buy-in, you're not going to get anywhere. And also this concept of being a T-shaped manager. And just from a talk yesterday, I found how this concept of a T-shaped manager can help to maximize achievement and success within organizations. And also create networks across organizations that are large, that can be large, but also nimble and effective. And Morton Hansen has a nice website for teaching. So, what are the traps? How smart people get it wrong. You can collaborate in hostile territory. You can over-collaborate, or you can overshoot the potential, underestimate the cost, misdiagnose the problems, and implementing the wrong solution. You could over-collaborate with a referring doctor, where the collaboration doesn't actually create value for you. You may be spending more time, and the results are not worth the amount of time and the amount of effort, your time, talent, and treasure that we're bringing into these transactions. Disciplined collaboration occurs when you evaluate the opportunities, you spot the barriers, and you tailor the solutions to tear down the barriers. The 4 barriers to collaboration, as outlined in this book, are very good. Not invented here barrier, unwilling to reach out to others. So you can see this actually in ophthalmology. So you see sometimes some of these barriers you see between the tech staff and the front desk. People are being territorial, or the billing staff and the practice management staff. You know, you're trying to collaborate between departments within, and as private equity has come farther, deeper and deeper into ophthalmology, building up organizations, these key concept of collaborating between 100 ophthalmologists, optometrists, and eye care leaders, between multiple offices. So, not invented here barrier, unwilling to reach out to others. The hoarding barriers, you're unwilling to provide help. You have knowledge that can help somebody in another office, but you're not willing to help. They have knowledge that they can help you, but they're unwilling to help you, and you're within the same organization. The search barrier, unwilling to find what they are looking for. You could be in an organization looking for a help, and you don't know who else to reach out to. They could be in another office, another staff which has their own culture and their own practice politics. And the transfer barrier, unable to work with people not known well. And Morton Hansen, in his book, he describes, you know, a Fortune 500 company, HP, which had a team in the Bay Area, in Silicon Valley, and also had a team in Bangalore, and their inability to collaborate because they had a transfer barrier, where they were unable to work with people not known well to them, between two different countries. But you could also have that within, there's some practices we have are in multiple states, even here at this meeting. How are they going to collaborate for the best interest of the patient and for the best interest of the practice? Cultivating a T-shaped management. So, I love this. So, you have this concept of individual performance and cross-company contributions. So, somebody who has low performance and low contributions, that's a laggard in an organization. Somebody could have high performance but low contributions, that's something called a lone star. Someone could have low performance but high contributions, that's called a butterfly. That's somebody they butterfly within the organization. And this has all the definitions, but lone stars are high achievers with difficulty delegating. Butterflies are people who work well across the company but fail to do well in their own jobs. So you have your own job description, and your efforts to collaborate within the organization, across the organization, or between organizations. But you know, social butterflies is what I think about. T-shaped management who are good collaborators, they simultaneously deliver results in their own jobs, and they deliver results by collaborating across companies. Now, these slides I prepared weeks, if not months ago, and just by attending a talk yesterday by Matt Jensen, I was fascinated. I was sitting over in the corner. I took a picture when he showed his slide, which was he showed how attitude and skill, and how that created. You know, you want somebody who has low attitude and low skill. Those tend to be the individuals who stay in organizations a little bit too long. Somebody who has high skill, low attitude, his point was they need coaching. Somebody can have low skill and high attitude, has a positive attitude, just has low skill. They need training. And I was fascinated to see how, I apologize for the graphic here, but because I moved these slides around last night. But I was really happy to see how my boxes here are almost a mirror image of his boxes over there. So if you see here, you have somebody who has let's do this, low performance, low cross-country contributions, really can be the equivalent of somebody who has low skill and low attitude, poor attitude. In the same vein, someone could have high performance and low contributions. That's somebody similar to here who has high skill, high performance, attitude, collaboration ability. So I was really intrigued by, we all want to be the T-shaped manager or somebody who has high skill and high attitude. I thought it was an interesting slide. Collaborative leadership style behaviors. There are 3 concepts here. Redefining success from narrow agendas to bigger goals. Being accountable, from blaming others to taking responsibility. And also involving others, from being autocratic to involving decision making. when I saw these concepts in Morton Hansen's book, it reminded me of Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. And if you ever get a chance, this is a phenomenal book. And if you don't have the time to read the book, he actually has a Harvard Business Review article in January of 2001 that's still available for free online. Because what I try to do is I try to take images. Some of my images don't look. I created all these images where I take the images from the official pages. Like I don't take somebody else's images. I either create my own or I take them from royalty-free areas. But anyone know about the concept of the level 5 leader? Someone who's humble, takes responsibility. Oh, this is we want to actually, if you get a chance, there's this Jim Collins book, Good to Great, also talks about leadership of sort of big organizations. But the concepts that he outlines in his book, I think if you were going to start with any book to read among the books I'll mention today, this would be one of the first ones I would recommend. So there's a level 5 hierarchy to leadership that he describes. Level 1, you can have a highly capable individual. Number 2, and I won't read the rest of it, but number 2, you have a contributing team member. Number 3, a competent manager. Number 4 is something called an effective leader, who catalyzes commitment and vigorous pursuit of a clear, compelling vision. And he stimulates the group to higher performance. But the goal has been to become a level 5 leader. That's somebody who builds enduring greatness through a paradoxical combination of personal humility and professional will. I've been just fascinated by it. And I read this book earlier this year. But there's this yin and yang of level 5, which he describes in his 2001 Harvard Business Review article, which I would refer you to. But sort of like demonstrate, I'll just go over a couple of them, but personal humility, demonstrates compelling modesty, shunning the public adulation, never boastful, and also has the willingness to have professional results, creates superb results, a clear catalyst in transitioning from good to great. So you could become a good organization, or you could try to become like a great, enduring organization. And this book sort of gives you the principles for leadership to achieve those goals. And some companies will never, really will have trouble, may never achieve level 5. They will be good, but they won't ever be great. And when you think about sort of a great organization, you can think of Apple, Coca-Cola, those companies that sort of in today's day and age, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, looking at the miracles that they're doing with their organizations. He also talks about this concept called the Hedgehog Concept, where you have something called a flywheel. But the Hedgehog Concept is, what do you care deeply about? What are you most passionate about? What can you be the best in the world at? And what drives your economic engine? Those are the 3 critical concepts that can make you great in something. And there's something, and quite honestly, when I studied this, and what can you be the best in the world at? I'm a cataract surgeon. I'm not sure if I could be the best in the world at that. And I mentioned this in an earlier talk, my hobby is actually just collecting rare books. And I collect historical documents as a hobby in a very niche area. And I actually think that's what I'm most passionate about. That's what I think I could be the best in the world at. I don't think it drives my economic engine, but at least I got 2 out of 3 on that. But I think that every individual, I think, can form a niche area where they can find their hedgehog concept of what they care deeply and passionate about, what they can be the best in the world at, and what can hopefully drive your economic engine. Does anyone know the concept of the serving leader, the servant leader? So the serving leader sort of tips everything on its head, and the concepts, I found that the concepts of Jim Collins' Good to Great, tipped on its head, is how a serving leader, someone who's humble, builds on strength, promotes others, shows the value in other individuals, upending the pyramid, raising the bar, blazing the trail. And when I saw this pyramid of Jim Collins, and I saw this upside down pyramid, I wondered, these are the serving leader, the wordle that they have here, encourage, energize, inspire, embolden. I found that these two concepts really played well into each other, where building on strength, the same as a level 5 leader, how a serving leader really is a level 5 leader, but like how that serving leader can sort of build on the strengths of other individuals. And one idea, one concept that a serving leader does is, a story I read was, there was a, which I've implemented in my practice, when I walk through the waiting room, if I see a piece of trash or a piece of tissue on the ground, I'll pick it up myself. And that's what serving leaders do. And there was a story in Atlanta of a nonprofit leader. He came to work one day, and the staff said, how's it going? How's everything going? Like, oh yeah, someone just needs to sweep the floor. And then that level 5 and that nonprofit leader found a broom and swept the floor. And that sort of created, being humble in front of your teammates, in front of your those you're collaborating with. So I found that eventually I picked the best of the concept of these 3 books: Collaboration, Good to Great, The Serving Leader, Personally Humble, Run to Great Purpose, Devoted to the Service of Others, still are devoted to organizational performance, and also can create disciplined collaboration, which optimizes the results. Disciplined collaboration, which optimizes results. And I think here too, in the last week or two, I did the introduction to phaco emulsification course at the Wills Eye Hospital, and we were collaborating between this team of ophthalmologists and about 8 residents. But I took the concepts of collaboration, and the day after that event, I sent a thank you note to the gentleman who organized it, Dr. Wisman. Love the new lab. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity to mentor the residents. Not only did I send the thank you note to him, I sent it to the nurse manager, who came early and took all the viscoelastics out of all the boxes, set up all the rooms, so that when the residents enter the rooms, they're really spoiled actually at Wills, because everything was set up with this, they just built this multi-million-dollar teaching lab for the residents, but everything was ready for them. I now have a stack of 500 thank you notes, and when I mentioned Guy Spear, who wrote a book on investing, it was The Education of Our Value Investors, the book that he wrote. He writes 5 thank you notes a day to someone in the world, expressing gratitude, and he just talks about the positive energy. I now have a stack of thank you notes in my office. Now every day my goal is to send 1 or 2 thank you notes to somebody who's helped me in my practice. And so, for example, just last week, there's no HIPAA violation here, but just last week, I saw a patient who needed an emergency, who was an emergency. I was going to refer that patient to the emergency room for a workup. And I was able to call the primary, and the primary said, Ravi, he's a friend of mine. He said, Ravi, do me a favor. Send him to my office. I'll get the lab work. We'll get the studies. We'll take care of him. He saved the patient a trip to the emergency room. I think together we were able to help the patient. Everyone I've mentioned, the Academy's hashtag is protecting sight and empowering lives. So I said, wonderful to be able to collaborate with you in a shared mission of protecting sight and empowering lives. Just last week, another aside. Just last week, I got a text at 6:35 in the morning from the nurse manager at the Wills Center where I operate in Cherry Hill. She said, Dr. Goel, we have no power. There was a big storm last night, and your cases are canceled for the day. So I was done. But even then, I drove to the surgery center, 20 minutes away, 15, 20 minutes away. I spoke to the patients whose cases were canceled because some of them hadn't arrived yet. We couldn't call them. And I watched with the nurse managers, and the 2 of them apologized to me. He said, Dr. Goel, I'm so sorry that your cases were canceled. I looked at them, and they actually felt bad. I said, why do you feel bad? It's not your fault. I said, I don't feel bad at all. There's a power outage in the area. The entire town shut down. Yeah, but you're the only one who, it's just like, we wish everybody had this feeling. I sent both of them a thank you note for their leadership in helping the center achieve their goals. And they both, one of them emailed me, but they both thanked me in person when I was there on the next visit. So this all plays into emotional intelligence. I don't know if any of you have read Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman gets a lot of credit for emotional intelligence. He wrote a great book, but actually one of the pioneers of emotional intelligence is Peter Salovey, who's the president of Yale University. But he wrote some of his groundbreaking research in that. But Daniel Goleman's the best-selling author from I think it was a New York Times reporter. But the domains of emotional intelligence, there are 5 EQs on self-awareness, self-management, self-motivation, empathy, and handling relationships. And I put a plug in for, if you don't have time, we're all so busy in our lives, but I have found TED Talks and entering these, if you're thinking about entering in these books and the authors in YouTube, oftentimes you'll find someone has created like a 10 or 15 minute summary with the high level concepts from these books. And actually, for one of the books I'm going to recommend, I wish I'd seen the TED Talks before I read the book. But I love the concept of constructive criticism, which Daniel Goleman mentioned in his book, and which is be specific, offer a solution, do it face to face, and show empathy. When we try to, like you did a terrible job. You're not going to change your organization. You're not going to be able to work better with a colleague. You'll have difficulty collaborating with that colleague in the future, unless your criticism can be constructive. Offering a solution, looking at it from a positive angle. Love this. Love the concept of Benjamin Franklin. This is a phenomenal. Walter Isaacson. The first Walter Isaacson book I read was Steve Jobs, then Ben Franklin. Now I'm on Da Vinci, but Leonardo da Vinci. So I love the concepts of Benjamin Franklin. These are sort of his junto. And actually, this guy Sean Murray had 10 lessons from Benjamin Franklin on wisdom. I met Sean Murray at 3 o'clock in the morning, standing in line at the Berkshire Hathaway meeting 2 years ago. And he has a nice he's got a nice blog on the lessons of Franklin, which he learned. OKRs. Has anyone heard the concept of OKRs? Objective and key results. Just in the session we were just saying, talking about key results. They're talking about in the user meeting for the EMR that I use. So I learned about this book by John Doerr. John Doerr is a partner of Kleiner Perkins, and he was an early employee at Intel under Andy Grove, who was a pioneer of Intel. I learned about this book a few weeks ago because of a friend of mine who's now the vice president of patient experience at the AMA. I helped to represent the academy at the AMA. And this gentleman, Todd Unger, who's phenomenal, Harvard MBA, was the chief marketing officer for the Daily Racing Forum, now has come to the AMA to help revitalize the organization. He bought this book for every senior level leader at the American Medical Association. And I only know about that because he had posted about a podcast that he was a guest on. I said, I'm going to listen to Todd's podcast as I drove to work. And he said, this book is phenomenal. And basically, OKRs are creating objectives and then measuring key results. And I think that I'm going to hopefully try to implement this in my practice. But it drives clarity, accountability, pursuit of greatness. You can set meaningful and audacious goals. And the 4 OKR superpowers are focus, alignment, tracking, and stretching. We have seen this as consumers in an amazing way. This is the book I recommend you watch the TED Talk before you read the book, because John Doerr does a phenomenal TED Talk. It's on his website, What Matters, or you can go to the TED page, where he defines OKRs in about 15 minutes, and then I'd recommend the book. But objectives need to be significant, concrete, action-oriented, inspirational, and a vaccine against fuzzy thinking. Now, OKRs are being used by Google, the Gates Foundation, Bono, and many startups in Silicon Valley. And it was formulated, and the credit for OKRs goes to Andy Grove from Intel, who was one of the founders of Intel. That's for the objectives. For key results, specific and time-bound, aggressive yet realistic, measurable and verifiable. And one example I can give you before I go to the examples in my slides is Google Chrome. The current CEO of Google, I'm blank on his, but he ran Google Chrome, and his objective 1 year was, I want 40 million users on Google Chrome within 3 years. Next one, I want 100 million within the next year. And that objective drove the results. The objective created the results that they were going to measure. The objective was to have 100 million Google Chrome members, and then everything after that was, how do we get there? What do we need to do? Now, for example, this is a good one from the book. And again, I took this photo so that I don't owe somebody a license for taking their image. So, an OKR quality continuum, and I love this example. One objective: win the Indy 500. This is a weak one. Key result: increase lap speed, reduce the pit stop time. Those are the two key results. This is what he defines as being weak. Second, win the Indy 500 objective. Key result: increase average lap speed by 2%. It's getting a little bit more defined. Second, reduce average pit stop time by 1 second. So instead of going from reduced pit stop time, having a result, let's reduce it by 1 second. And this is strong. Win the Indy 500, increase the average lap speed by 2%, test at wind tunnels 10 times, reduce the average pit stop time by 1 second, reduce the pit stop areas by 50%, etc. That's excellent if you're into the Indy 500. But how does this help with organizations? Support company hiring. This could be in any of our organizations. How do we support company hiring? Whether you have a small practice or large practice. Hire one director of finance and operations. Talk to at least 3 candidates. Source one product marketing manager. Meet with 5 candidates this quarter. Source one product manager, meet with 5 candidates this quarter. So this is how you get much more granular within organizations, where you have an objective to support the company hiring. What are you going to measure? That's fine, you have an objective. What are the results that you're going to measure? And Apple has a policy like, who's responsible for this result? Who's going to be the person? Who's going to be the individual who's the key person for each of those results? Institute a culture that attracts and retains A players. I love this because this works in any organization. Focus on hiring A players, managers, optimize recruitment, scrub off job descriptions, retrain everyone, ensure ongoing mentoring, and create a culture of learning. So as you have a main objective, and each of these key results can be an objective for a different level of the organization. So, like, for example, they have I think in his book he had an example like an NFL team, win the Super Bowl. That's an objective. How are you gonna do that? The offensive line has to do this. Offensive line has to cut down the speed by whatever, or increase speed. So it can get very technical, but I think it's a good way to create objectives and have key results within an organization. I'm not going to bore you with this slide, but basically on his website, John Doerr's website, What Matters, he has this whole thing on no one has more collective experience in OKRs than Google. We all think that, John Doerr met with the Google guys in the garage in Silicon Valley, and they said, John Doerr said, what's your objective? And they said, we want, our objective is 10 billion. I'm paraphrasing the book. Our objective is 10 billion. And at the time, John Doerr was like, okay, he thought to himself, so they want to go with a market cap of 1 billion. That would be huge. But these guys are saying they want to go with a market cap of 10 billion. And one of the Google guys says, no, we don't want a market cap of 10 billion. We want revenue of 10 billion. That's where we want to get to. That's our objective. So I'm paraphrasing. We're being recorded, so I hope I'm right about that, from that memory. But I will draw you to, if you go to whatmatters.com, I would highly recommend, and this is really, I apologize for the small type, but objectives are the what's, key results are the how, cross-team OKRs. This has a nice roadmap for homework if you're interested. So the reason why I bring this up is YouTube was purchased by Google. And YouTube, the entire Google organization has OKR, objectives and key results. And I love YouTube because YouTube has helped my practice more than anything else in terms of educating my patients. I bought a license for a couple of academy videos where I do an introduction on the risks and benefits of cataract surgery. I then have live surgery I have like 3 or 4 videos I've uploaded. And it's really easy for me to say, Mrs. Jones, you have a cataract? Do me a favor, watch my YouTube videos, come back in a week or 2, we're gonna sign you up for surgery. That's helped me a lot. Now, I was fascinated when I read this because I didn't realize that Google had an OKR for YouTube. And their OKR was, the objective was, reach 1 billion hours of watch time per day by 2016 with growth driven by, and they list the key results. But what I found fascinating was I could sense that my user experience had changed over the years. When you go to a video on YouTube, they want to keep you there. So when you finish watching one video, it goes into, it's almost like machine learning. They go into another video which is of similar interest, which they might think that you might be interested in. And this is why they throw ads in between the videos. Because it's all driven by ads. So they know OKR on increasing ad revenue in YouTube. And the book goes into this, but I was fascinated by it, by how it had affected my consumer experience on that platform. So I mentioned the 4 superpowers of OKRs again: focus and commitment to priorities, align and connect for teamwork, track for accountability, and stretch for amazing. I repeat the slide I showed earlier on the essence of collaboration. Is actually, as I mentioned, it's results, amplifying strength, and objectives. So if you can sort of marry the concepts of all these books. The 5-step, has anyone read Ray Dalio's Principles by chance? Phenomenal. Ray Dalio runs a $300 billion plus hedge fund called Bridgewater. And at one point he went bankrupt and he had to borrow money from his father to make his car payment. I think he tried to short gold or tried to do something back in he did something which didn't go the right way. But he has this concept of radical transparency. And he wants you to be radically transparent in your organization. And I've tried to implement that a little bit in our organization. I put a whiteboard in the hallway. We put up in the hallway where the techs and the doctors and the rest of our team can see. I said, do me a favor, put it up on the whiteboard. If there's anything that you guys think we need, put it up. And they wrote things down there. I reorganized it. I took a picture of it. But having that concept of radical transparency has been very helpful. In the talk I gave earlier, I mentioned how we started surveying patients, doing internal surveys, where since January this year we have about a 14 to 15% response rate. But the comments that patients will make are fascinating. Like they'll give a shout out to a key tech who did a great job. They'll say that they had a bad experience with another tech. They'll talk about the phone service. They'll talk about my care. One said that I didn't explain things enough, where they read the report and we didn't talk about that. But basically, all of those comments I copy paste, print it out, and put it up on the whiteboard. It's actually been very helpful for our organization. So this is a great book on radical transparency. The 4 laws of behavior change. James Clear's. He's got this, the 4 laws of behavior change are: make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. So that's if you want to create a good habit. If you want to break a bad habit, make it non-obvious, make it unattractive, make it hard, and make it unsatisfying. So, but this is the cue, craving, response, and reward. This book is a little long. I think if you read the first 50 pages, you'll probably be pretty good. But I tweeted to James Clear. I said, I really love. He had this one sentence. It's like, if you want to be truly great at something, I'm paraphrasing it, but if you want to be truly great at something, you want to make it sort of as boring as possible. You want to just be able to do it. And I think about that for cataract surgery. You don't want the medical student who wants to see something interesting that day. You want it to be like as like straightforward and a boring day because you're just sort of doing your work and helping to protect sight. I asked him if he could help me have my golf game. He couldn't do that. The handwriting on the wall. Anyone read Who Moved My Cheese? Yeah, it's great. It's a great book. I mean, this is a quick read. So this is like 100 pages. But this is just such a great book. I mean, the change happens. It's going to happen. We as physicians, we love to complain about everything, but somebody move your cheese, and they have station C to station N. That's where it was. These guys who linger in station C because they were enjoying the cheese that was at station C every day. And they never figured out. They had to be they had to stay nimble, and they had to still be curious. They always have to have an eye out for what's going on. I think this meeting actually is phenomenal because based on the vendors, you see how the technology is changing very rapidly, and you have to keep an eye out on that because the concepts, the vendors you see here today, they weren't here a couple of years ago. Some of them are brand new. So this is Who Moved My Cheese is a great book on adapting to change quickly. So in Morton Hansen's book, which I mentioned on collaboration, everyone likes to win. Beneath all the talk about teamwork and balance, all the books on being kind and cultivating emotional intelligence, which I love, people still crave to be the best. So I just love this quote. I actually try to find, this book is this is from a Business Week article in 2006, which he quoted. But you still want to, you collaborate and do all that stuff, you still want to be the best in your organization. So my suggestion is that you can spend $250,000 on an MBA, or you can build your own curriculum. And this is part of my lifelong learning and the curriculum that I've built. But podcasts, these books that I get recommended, and there are books that I wish I could stop reading a book. So there are books that once I start reading a book, I try to continue reading it until it goes to the end. But and I haven't broken this habit yet, but the true experts in reading will tell you, if the book isn't doing it for you, move on. You gotta find a different book. But I mentioned all the books that are here. Yes, I mentioned all the books in this talk. But TED Talks, my next frontier for myself, and this is actually a screenshot from last night that I made by looking at TED Talks and sorting them by view count. I like to sort TED. When you're trying to do a how-to of anything on YouTube, you look at the one that has the highest views. But one of the TED Talks here has 50 million views or 58 million views. So my next objective is to try to listen to a TED Talk at least once a week. So and hopefully gain lessons in mental models from that. With that, I want to thank you, and I'd like to open up for questions on collaboration. Any questions at all?
I have a question
Please.
on your transparency board.
Yes.
With your transparency board, have you found that it's been beneficial, or do people start getting kind of nitpicky on things and things up there that's maybe not appropriate?
So the question is just because we're being recorded on the transparency board, has it been beneficial, or are people being nitpicky? I'm going to nitpick on my practice partners in the back with her feedback on that before I say anything.
I think it's been a little of both. I think there's been some stuff that's really been great. I think it's a fabulous idea. I think it's one of those things where we started it, we need to recommit ourselves to it. We got sidetracked by some other stuff. I probably had the wrong attitude about it, because if people would write stuff and I see and I didn't like it, I'd answer them back on the board. One of the things I wrote was try to come up with things that don't cost me a month. So I think it was good, but I think I have to kind of embrace it and see it as a positive, I think it was overwhelming for me at first, but then there was great stuff. Like we talked about stuff about the portal, how patients are interested in the portal. Our portal gives us trouble. So that was great that somebody put it there. They did the funniest thing. They made a portal in blue and a black hole. And said, our portal's like a black hole. And I thought that was great because it made me aware. I didn't even know our staff was aware that patients were having issues with the portal, our tech staff. So no, I think it's great. I think they write stuff. We just want them to write more stuff. We had trouble initially.
We had trouble, yeah, exactly. We had trouble initially, and then I had created an email address. I forget what it was,
It's the problem.
Yeah, I know. It was iteam@regionali.com or something. It was for our website. I think that the radical, we I think that we've gotten about 50, 30 or 40 good ideas on radical transparency. It's like, patients ask me about the portal, I don't know what it is. Quite honestly, sometimes I see my mother for an exam, I'd walk in, she'd say, do me a favor, go to the bathroom and fill up the paper towels, because you're out of paper towels in the bathroom. Or, I can't believe that patients are sitting in this chair which has torn leather. That's what people notice. I mean, and I think that we have a nice collaboration with our techs and our model is that we have let's say we have 5 techs. 2 of them serve as scribes. So one of them will tech 3 or 4 days, and when I'm in the office, she'll scribe for me. And the same thing with Dr. Miano. So that's actually been very helpful, but because you can get that individual feedback, but throwing it up on the board, no one's been like, there hasn't been like, no one's been offensive, let me just say that, but like, but the ideas of like, we need, we need to put more downloads on the website, patient education, like, you want to, one of my best friends is he's a physician, a plastic surgeon. He was an Army Ranger. He was deployed to Afghanistan, and now and long story short, he has a government contract organization. He said, Ravi, government workers don't want you to tell them how you're going to make their life easier, because if they don't want to, or it's like you don't want to say like, oh, this will help you do more work. Like you want to help them make their life easier is the concept. So so we want to ask. I'm asking the techs and the scribes, like, how can we make my surgical coordinator's life easier? And she wrote up, I need 2 phone numbers, or somebody needs to review. People aren't reviewing the medications. I thought the feedback from some patients were like, yeah, this tech was very good, this tech was very bad. And I removed the name. People can probably figure out who it was, but I think that was, that helped to build up. I think it helps to build up everybody. There were some comments from a patient were so specific to a certain member of the organization that I didn't put it on the board. Like, I had terrible experience with this person, and you can figure out who it was. So I wouldn't do that.
And I think that makes a good point, because I do think we do have that culture in our organization, and not to disagree with Robbie's mother, where sometimes everything in our physical plans isn't perfect. I think what patients love about us is, and I think what the staff at the surgery center loves about both of us, is I really do think there's that culture. We go around and thank staff members throughout the surgery center at the end of the day. We thank our patients for coming in to see us. So I think we have that culture, and I think we're trying to bring that more to our team, to say we can be transparent on the whiteboard and we can do things to make things easier for everybody.
Thank you. That's a great question. Because this Ray Dalio, who I haven't met, but he has a very strong Twitter and LinkedIn presence. And one of my best friends works for his organization, and he has videos, and like he is transparent. Like people will send him a letter saying, Ray, I just want to say you were off your game yesterday in the meeting, and I wish you would be more prepared. This is his vice president, who's worth $2 billion, telling the CEO, who's worth $17 billion, that you didn't bring your A game yesterday to this meeting. This whole concept of radical transparency, people can be very threatened by it. And again, we're a 2 ophthalmology practice with our team is 14, 15 people, and full-time equivalents might be 10 or less. But you at the end of the day, you want to. At the end of the day, I want to be able to provide great care to my patients, and hopefully leave a little earlier so I can go play some golf. So if I can do those 2 things, I've had a good day. Sir.
With that same comment that you're saying, you're not on your A game for that presentation or whatever, the kicker is, did you remember to say when he was on his A game, and how many times did you remember? Because that's the part that I think sometimes physicians, they recognize when somebody's not on their game, but have a hard time recognizing that they're on their game for this patient or this you know.
Yeah, Dr. Miano mentioned, I try to thank every member of my staff every day. And so, for example, with this stack of thank you notes, I'm hoping to get rid of I'm hoping to send out 500 thank you notes, 2 a day in the next few months. I have a patient who goes to Italy twice a year. She gives me a limoncello whenever she comes back. I send her a thank you note that day. We're more likely as a patient, I don't know the percentage, you're 10 times more likely to submit a negative review than you are a positive review, right? But remember a couple of concepts. First of all, the fact that you're board certified and provide great care and have 24/7 access and have convenient parking and bill appropriately and are clinically brilliant and a great surgeon, can I tell you something? That's assumed. People assume that. When you hear about, I'm on this great. I'm sorry, my Facebook friends are on there, but we're Facebooking live, by the way. But there's a thing called physician side gigs, and I represent the academy at the AMA, etc. If you start with one book, read Who Moved My Cheese. That will change your life. Okay, people moved our cheese. We're gonna get $100 less per cataract starting January 1st. A friend of mine is in an organization on the West Coast is in a big organization that does 7,000 cataracts a year. She's like, Ravi, this is going to affect our practice by $700,000. Go on. Circling back to your question, I think that we have to, that expression of gratitude that Guy Spear described in his book, and other people have described also, but it was like a jump back moment. In fact, that photo I showed of myself saying with Guy Spear and Monish Pabrai, this guy Monish Pabrai is phenomenal. Monish Pabrai went to Clemson, became obsessed with Warren Buffett, read all of his books. He's probably worth like $300 million, but I don't mention that only because I'll tell you that Guy Spear and Monish Pabrai are best friends, only because Monish Pabrai has an annual meeting like Berkshire Hathaway, which is closed to investors only. Guy came as a guest and sent Monish a thank you note the next week. 3 or 4 years later, they spent $300,000 to have lunch with Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett auctions off the lunch every year. They did that. Monish Pabrai is phenomenal. He has basically the equivalent of an Exeter of India, free for the poorest kids in India who can study from like K through 12 so that they can take the entrance exams into the IITs of India, like Indian Institute of Technology, medical school, etc. Gratitude. We were talking about that is the snowball effect of gratitude, which you could. I don't email thank yous anymore. If I'm going to thank someone, I'm going to send them a personal note because I think that's a lost art. I'll thank them also by email, but I think you'll text them, whatever. But I don't think that email and text have as much value as that sort of that written note. Think about whenever I give a gift to the university, I always get a thank you note from the president. With a postscript. It's kind of nice. I have a special drawer. Share it with my family. So sorry if I overspoke on that one. But other questions or comments? Thank you for coming out to this talk, and I'm sorry I'm holding you up from the bar. It's probably been open in an hour. Have a great meeting. Thanks, guys. I hope we're still Facebooking live. Yes, we are. Good.